As the delegates begin racking up for the Democrats and Republicans, the Democrats, you got to remember, changed the rules. They devalued the superdelegates. So the superdelegates only play a major role if you don't have enough delegate votes or if the delegate votes are fractured. With Joe Biden being really the only contender on the Democratic side, yeah, I know there's Dean Phillips and others, but they're shutting him out. The delegates won't be fractured, so the delegates will be bound to vote for Joe Biden. The delegates will have to vote for Joe Biden as a Democrat unless Joe Biden says, you know what, I can't do it. It's over. I'm out. Then there are two paths forward. If on the Wednesday night of the Democratic convention, Kamala Harris is confirmed as the Democratic nominee, they can't get out of it. They have to have Kamala Harris as the nominee. If Joe Biden walks away before the convention, like the day before the convention, Joe Biden walks away, Kamala Harris isn't on the ballot. Nobody's voting for her. She can't be the vice presidential nominee without a presidential nominee. So, yeah, he could go out and the Democrats could rally. They could bring in Michelle Obama, and Trump is toast if it's Michelle Obama, probably, because of women, her biography. She's seen as favorable. You may not like her. I may not like her. I see her as partisan. You do too, but that's not how most Americans see her. And will Trump have time between the time she's the nominee and the end of the election when everyone's oohing and eyeing over the great surprise to be able to define her as that? I don't know. I don't think so. But I don't think it will be Michelle Obama for a number of reasons. Yes, she's committed to getting out the vote. Yes, she's committed to helping, but she doesn't like Washington, D.C. She didn't like being in the White House. She didn't like being under the spotlight. She still doesn't like being under the spotlight. But more than that, there are a lot of Democrats who resent like hell Barack Obama. This doesn't get covered in the media. It doesn't get covered by our side because we're now as obsessed with Obama as we were the Clintons. But there are a lot of Democrats who resent like hell Barack Obama. The Biden team despises the Obama team. There's a story in the Politico that Joe Biden has started referring to David Axelrod, Barack Obama's chief consultant, as a Rick Pay, if you do the pig Latin on that one. I don't want to say the regular word on radio. Starts with a PR and it rhymes with stick. He's been referring to David Axelrod as that, as Axelrod has been criticizing the Biden campaign team. The Biden people do not like the Obama people. And there are a great many Democrats now who blame Barack Obama for Donald Trump and say he didn't do enough to realign the country. He didn't fight hard enough. And I don't think they want Michelle Obama. So you got to get through these delegates. And why would they pick Michelle Obama when the Democrats, as much as, if not more so than the Republicans, have this pool of people who have been waiting very patiently because Joe Biden said he was going to be one-term president and then decided to run again. So you've got Gretchen Whitmer. And again, keep in mind, your reaction is, well, she sucks. Yeah, I agree. But how does the rest of the nation see her? We can't substitute our disdain for how other people see her. So you've got Gretchen Whitmer. You've got Gavin Newsom, who even the Democratic strategists I talk to say he's too progressive. He can't be the nominee and nobody wants to tell him. But you've got Whitmer. You've got Jared Polis in Colorado, who's a progressive but pretends to be a moderate. You've got members of Congress. You've got what's his name in Kentucky now. It's a Republican state. They reelected Andy Beshear as governor again, overwhelmingly in a year that was favorable for Republicans. Beshear got reelected. He's the Democratic darling right now. Beshear has a greater chance of being the nominee than Gavin Newsom. If Biden steps aside, I would tell you it's probably going to be Beshear, Kamala Harris. There are so many elected Democrats who have been waiting their turn. If you got Michelle Obama, they would have to wait for 8 years, probably. They don't want to wait. They don't want to wait. So that's why I have a hard time believing it would be Michelle Obama. There's the resentment of Barack Obama among Democratic politicos that y'all don't see because the media doesn't want to cover it. There's the great disdain and resentment of the Biden side of the Democratic Party to Obama that does get covered, and they're the ones controlling the convention and Joe Biden's exit strategy. And then there are all of the politicos on the Democratic Party side who think it's their turn, and they would resent like hell Michelle Obama coming in. And they don't want to rally. I mean, you have to understand, for those of us in Georgia, we can relate to this on the Stacey Abrams situation. Now, for those of you nationally, Stacey Abrams ran in 2018. She was the media darling. There was a lot of white guilt among reporters who poured so much more coverage into Beto O'Rourke. And Stacey Abrams did better than Beto O'Rourke, and she lost. And a lot of these white liberal reporters thought, oh, maybe if we had covered her better and more, she would have won. So they did in 2022. She's the darling of the Democrats. She gets on Star Trek. She gets on the cover of Vogue and Vanity Fair, and she loses. And what she did is she aligned the entire state party. She was literally telling people, you're not allowed to run for this position. You have to run for this position. No, you run here, and this is going to be our slate, and I'm going to get us elected. I'm going to carry us across. And not only did she not carry him across, she gave up weeks before the election and cost the Democrats everything. It's one of the stories that those of you not outside of Georgia appreciate enough. Stacey Abrams realized several weeks before the election she was toasted, gave up, disappeared, and left all these Democrats hanging. Her whole operation has collapsed now. She just lost a big court case in Georgia. They're being investigated. I mean, the whole thing collapsed. She is persona non grata now, and that's very much like the Barack Obama situation. He was very successful. The Democrats were not. Barack Obama, as much as he was successful for himself, look what happened to the Democratic Party. They got wiped out nationally, and Donald Trump became president, and Democrats will not forgive him for that. He's the most successful Democrat they've had since Bill Clinton. But look how they turned on Bill Clinton. They're not going to give Michelle Obama a pass because of her husband. There are too many other Democrats waiting in the wings, and you've got Andy Beshear now in Kentucky as their latest media darling, a supposed moderate Democrat. He's actually very liberal, from a Republican state who beat the Republicans in an off year election in 2023. He's the guy they're starting to look at for the future. He's young. He's got legs. He wins in Republican states. He speaks the language of moderation. He connects to blue-collar voters. That's their guy all of a sudden. So you'd probably put him in with Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris, there's no love lost for Kamala Harris. They won't ditch her because of the wokes and the intersectionalists, but they're not going to advance her. They know she would be even a bigger disaster than Joe Biden. So that's why my informed opinion on why it's not going to be Michelle Obama is all of these issues. I will say this, however. If they did decide to go with her, she would be tough to beat because she's not defined by her husband's politics. Even with a lot of conservative women, she is a woman. That helps her. And she did a very good job rehabilitating her image after they left the White House with her biography and her speaking tour and the like. She'd be a formidable opponent. She would. Don't discount that she would be. I do want to say this. I do believe Republicans could be walking into a trap with Donald Trump, very much so. You nominate Donald Trump, the Democratic convention is a month after the Republican convention. That gives Joe Biden a month to run the tables, do the deep dive polling, decide he can't win, and bow out. And Republicans will be stuck with Donald Trump while Democrats get to change faces. And if you don't think that can happen, the Democrats have done this in multiple state races around the country in just the past decade. New Jersey, Connecticut, and elsewhere, the Democrats, they ditch their frontrunner and they replace him at the last minute, and there's nothing you can do about it because it's perfectly legal, and you'll be stuck with Donald Trump unless he wants to get out. And you know and I know Trump won't get out. And so we'll go up against someone other than Joe Biden. Whether it all happens or not, if I had to, if you put a gun to my head and said, you must pick, Joe Biden's not going to bow out. His wife thinks he can do it. He thinks he can do it. And his ego is too freaking big for him to do it. He would rather go down. And you know what's going to happen if Joe Biden loses? The Democrats in 2024 will do exactly what the Republicans did in 2020. They'll claim it was stolen, and they will riot in the streets.
When the world